Alrighty, so I've just got back from the Roots game where they won 1-0 against Sporting KC2, and they also made it to the playoffs for their first time in franchise history. Well, actually, it is the first time they made it to the playoffs because this year is their expansion season. But that's kind of the reason why I'm doing this review relatively later than when the final game actually finished, which was around 7 o'clock my time. But let us actually begin talking about these games because I still have to do the review, or not the review, the preview for tomorrow's game, since tomorrow we have our first game that is going to be kicking off at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, and it's actually going to be involving one of my team. But we start off with the first game between Inter Miami versus NYCFC. And for NYCFC, not only they get the win in this game against Miami, but they clinch a playoff position because of other resort kind of gone in favor of them. So in the first half, Rodriguez did put it wide from close range. I thought there wasn't really much that happened early in the game, which is not a big surprise because anytime when you have games that is like early, things tends to be a little bit slow in the first couple of minutes. But in the 17th minute, Miami had a big opportunity to get the opening goal, but Sean Johnson was able to deny Gonzalo Higuain as he went through on goal. Speaking of Higuain, yesterday there was a big news that it was announced that Federico Higuain has officially announced his retirement after this season is done, and obviously he got a very big standing ovation when he was subbed off for his very last ever home game. And I'll definitely will do a video once this season over and talk about the career of Federico Higuain because he is considered one of the best and probably one of the most underrated player we have ever seen in this league history. But in the 29th minute, Marsman had to be subbed off with a knee injury as McCarthy had to replace him. This happened actually a couple minutes when Marsman and Breckshay basically collide with each other, and unfortunately Marsman got the worst of that collision, and that he of course had to be subbed off. So John McCarthy was able to, or John McCarthy basically replaced him there, and unfortunately it was not a good start for him in goal because just 3 minutes after he came in, he can see the opening goal of the game, and it's Tati Castellanos scoring from Keaton Parks to give NYCFC a 1-0 lead. Tati continued his hot streak at a point where at this goal when he scored, he was actually tied with the Golden Boot race with Ola Kamara, and little do we know that later on he would actually overtake Ola Kamara for that Golden Boot race. But we do head to halftime with NYCFC leading 1-0, and then in the second half, Federico Higuain looked to trying to make his story book ending to his last home game with a chance to score a goal, but the post was having otherwise. There was then a follow-up by Figao on the same opportunity, but he puts it high from close range. Then in the 54th minute, actually right after when Higuain was denied by the post, he was subbed off in this game, and there was definitely a standing ovation. And Higuain, he actually kind of came off the pitch not really kind of like just slowly and just kind of enjoy the moment. He just kind of walk off almost like it's a regular substitution, but I guess maybe a lot of that has to do with the fact that, Federico Higuain has always been a very humble guy, and he doesn't kind of want to savor that moment too much, or maybe because of the fact that he knows his team is down 1-0, and, he wants to make sure that, he can come up quickly so that Miami can maybe have more times to get the equalizer. And in fact, just 2 minutes after that emotional kind of substitution, Miami did get the equalizer, and it's Figao in the 56th minute to tie the game up at 1 apiece. But that was some very bad defending from NYCFC. And how many times I've said before, when you leave the ball in the box dangling, you are basically asked to score. And this time, NYCFC basically let the ball dangling in their own box, didn't clear it. And Figao basically just said, "Thank you very much. I'm just going to put that one away." And all of a sudden, the game was tied up at 1 apiece. And there was no doubt the momentum was with Miami because they looked like they were trying to push to get that second goal. But then out of nowhere, in the 60th minute, Tati Castellanos would score his 17th goal. And as I mentioned, overtaking Ola Kamara for the Golden Boot race for this season as he scored for Morales and Sands to make it 2-1 in favor of NYCFC. By the way, I haven't really mentioned a lot about the Golden Boot race this year, but that race is really heating up. And with the way that the race is kind of in some way, you see some of the names that is up there, it's kind of unexpected. I mean, I know Tati Castellanos is considered one of the best striker and at least one of the best young striker in the league, but this has been just a career year for him. And there's no doubt that, there's already been a lot of rumors that he is going to be linked to go to Europe, and I think NYCFC is definitely going to get a big money, or definitely going to get a lot of money for Tati Castellanos when they eventually decide to sell him off. But here, of course, as I said, he scored here to retake the lead for NYCFC, and that kind of really killed the momentum for Miami, because after that, NYCFC kind of retook the control of the lead. Castellanos tried to go for a hat-trick, but he puts it wide from 10 yards out. There was multiple times that Tati Castellanos did try to go for his hat-trick, and that, there was also times where I think he was kind of a little bit too selfish of just thinking about his hat-trick rather than maybe pass the ball along. But I'll talk about a little bit later why that actually wasn't the case late in this game. But in the 76th minute, McCarthy was able to deny Parks there before Castellanos did round McCarthy there and tried to put it in from a tight angle, but he can only find the side netting. There was no doubt that NYCFC was pushing for that third goal and try to kill this game off, and eventually they did. In the 83rd minute, Talles Magno would score, I believe, his third goal for NYCFC and his third MLS goal from Castellanos to make it 3-1 in favor of NYCFC. So, like I said, despite the fact that Tati was kind of a little bit selfish to try to get a hat-trick in this sequence, he did help the self-awareness that, Talles Magno was just wide open there. So instead of maybe trying to once again be selfish and go for the hat-trick, he decided to kind of just pass it along and get the assist there. And even though I know, as a goal scorer, that is Tati Castellanos, he would rather be the one that actually scored that goal rather than be on the assist chart. But sometimes, he knows how this game is still kind of up for the balance, and sometimes it's not always the worst thing to be unselfish and trying to set up your teammate. And most of the time, when you decide to do that, it does resort to a big award for your team. So, yeah, that made it 3-1 in favor of NYCFC. Although there was a shout for a penalty for Miami in the 85th minute that was not given. Johnson then denied Pizarro in the 86th minute as Miami was looking to try to get one back and try to set up a grandstand finish. Leardam then puts it over from long range in the 87th minute, but that was the last opportunity that Inter Miami has to get one back, and in the end, NYCFC able to get the 3-1 win over Inter Miami. As the shots in this game, 10 shots apiece for both of these teams, 4 shots on goal for both of these teams, 2 shots off target for the 4 that NYCFC had, 4 shots that was blocked for the 2 that NYCFC had, and possession-wise, 50% for both of these teams. So the stats are actually really tight, and it kind of really balanced with the way that, I think this is the first time I've ever seen both teams have the same amount of shots on goal, and also possession-wise. But at the end of the day, what matters is the scoreboard, which NYCFC will be very happy getting all 3 points. And now all of a sudden, remember how NYCFC had that long spell where they weren't able to score goals and they went on that 6-game winless run? Well, ever since they finally were able to score a goal, this team is starting to get things going again, and I think that might be some good news for NYCFC fans, considering the fact that, it's great that they see their team make it to the playoffs once again, but it is now all about what happened when they do in the playoffs, and whether or not if they can go far into the playoffs or not. And in some way, they have to go far in the playoffs this season, because again, NYCFC has a very high standard, and if they don't make it to the playoffs, it's basically just continue the legacy of failure for NYCFC, always choking when they get into the postseason. But now moving on in terms of the next match. So before I get to this game, on behalf of both LA team and certainly as a Loons fan myself, I want to thank the San Jose Earthquakes for beating RSL in this game. And, this game, not only the fact that defense was pretty much optional in this game, but this was really a game of who can implode the most in this one. Like, there was time where, when RSL were up 1-0 and the fact that they had a chance to kind of kill this game off, they basically said, you know what, let's not do that. Let's just implode for no reason whatsoever, and then just kind of gave up 4 straight goals. And then the Quakes just kind of realized that, oh wait, as much as we're doing very good, we're gonna be eliminated either way. So why not we give our fan base another frustrating loss by imploding again late in this one? And I mean, I'm not quite sure if that's how things went with both of these team mindset, but it definitely looked like it with the way that it was just kind of a battle between who can actually implode and who can choke the most out of this game. But early on in this game, as I mentioned, RSL was definitely on the front foot. Though Wando had the first real opportunity of the game as he puts it wide from 17 yards out. But then just 2 minutes later, Mark Sinkowski absolutely robbed Demir Krylak from point blank range. And, Krylak will think about that one later tonight, especially with the way that his team lost. But he actually did end up on the assist chart just 2 minutes after that miss, as Rusnak would score from Krylak to give RSL a 1-0 lead. Krylak had another opportunity as he whiffs on a shot that goes straight to Mark Sinkowski, and I believe Krylak actually didn't end up on the score sheet in this game. So again, you would definitely think about some of these opportunities that he missed, and especially RSL would definitely think about those early opportunities that they missed, because this game looked ugly early on. Ochoa then denied Wando in the 23rd minute, but the flag went up, so that goal wouldn't have counted. Before Mark Sinkowski had to deny Rubio Rubin, and I also kind of wrote the defense was basically non-existent for the Quakes, because it was just wave after wave of pressure that RSL was putting in against the Quakes. In fact, the stats pretty much shows it. Shots on goal was 5-0 in favor of RSL inside 30 minutes, and I believe RSL also had 6 shots up to that point. So basically 5 of their 6 shots actually went on goal. And when that happened, you know that there's something wrong with the opposition defense. And like I said, that defense for the Quakes, it was basically non-existent. And I just kind of thought that, well, knowing the fact that the Quakes have already been eliminated, they look like they're just completely checked out, and they don't even care about what's going to happen for the rest of the season. But then in the 38th minute, to my biggest surprise, they equalize. And it's Fierro that scored from K-Cal to tie the game up at 1 apiece, and that no doubt stunned the crowd at Rio Tinto Stadium, because they thought that their team was gonna have a very easy victory in this one with the way how that first 30 minutes went. But that goal also kind of give the momentum to the Quakes, because after that, well, first of all, there was a shout for a penalty for RSL that was not given in the first minute of stoppage time. But then right after that, in the very next sequence of play, Wando would score from Fierro and Lopez to make it 2-1 in favor of the Quakes. I mean, Wando, you know that he loves to score against RSL, and I believe this is his 15th goal against RSL in his career, and now he have extended the record for the most goal ever in MLS history to 170 goals. So yeah, that gives the Quakes a 2-1 lead in a game where if you just kind of tune in the 30th minute mark, then it's kind of expect the fact that the Quakes were able to win, or the Quakes were leading 2-1. But if you actually tune out the entire first half, you would definitely not have seen the fact that this game should be at 2-1, and that I definitely did not think the Quakes would be 2-1 up after what I saw from the first 30 minutes of this game. Now, in the second half, that momentum kind of continued, because in the 48th minute, Cal puts it wide from close range, and as I pretty much wrote, Quakes picks up where they left off at the end of the first half. Then K-Cal blazed it wide from 19 yards out. I thought K-Cal had a monster game in this, and he's about to score a goal that was probably one of the best goals we have seen a Quakes player score, and certainly in nomination for goal of the week, because in the 70th minute, he would score here from Mark Sinkowski to make it 3-1 in favor of the Quakes. And anytime when the goalkeeper gets on the assist chart, something amazing has happened. And what happened in this was Mark Sinkowski basically threw the ball back into play, and K-Cal decided that, I'm just going to take on the entire RSL defense, and he basically just make an amazing 60-yard run, and somehow able to put the ball into back in like that. Like, that is some Lionel Messi kind of goal that I've saw what K-Cal basically scored here, and it's just a reminder of how much of a bright future this kid had, and I really hope things are going to be continue to improve on him, because he is a guy that I think I really hope the Quakes don't actually ruin, because I've seen before where the Quakes have ruined some great talent. And I can definitely see that there could be a possibility that they do that, but I'm just finger crossing that that is not the case. But it was 3-1 at that point. Then Espinosa puts it wide from long range in the 77th minute. Before in the 79th minute, it's 4-1 in favor of the Quakes, as Jackson Yu joins the goal scoring party there in the 79th minute. But this was really a WTF turnover from Nick Beasler. Basically just get pickpocketed by Jackson Yu, and you'll basically make no mistake to make it 4-1 in this game. And you can definitely see a lot of fans at Rio Tinto Stadium, which, by the way, there wasn't actually a lot of RSL fans attending this one. There was a lot of empty seats in this game, which I'm kind of surprised, because, this is a big playoff game. You would think that the Riot would actually be at least packed in this one, but there was a lot of empty seats, and it was more notable when RSL was down 4-1. But this is also when I talked about earlier of the fact that, as much as RSL is imploding in this game, the Quakes kind of to say, well, wait a minute, this is too good to be true, that we are actually playing very well on the road. So we're going to decide to go back to old Quakes form and kind of remind Quakes fan of why exactly we missed the playoffs this season. Because just 6 minutes later, they would concede to make it 4-2, as it's Michael Chan, the one that scored from Julio to make it 3-2 in favor, or not 3-2, 4-2 in favor of RSL. Got the score I mixed up there for a second. And then in the second minute of stoppage time, it was 4-3 in favor of the Quakes when Rusnak would score from Herrera to make it that scoreline. And, the only good thing is that with that goal scoring, there was like only 2 minutes left, because there was like 4 minutes of stoppage time. I swear, if there was maybe like 10 minutes of stoppage time in this, and RSL score a goal like in the second minute of stoppage time, I know the Quakes are going to implode. Like, I can see that they were definitely imploding there, and it was so I was so glad that at least that happened in a time where, it was almost going to be impossible for RSL to equalize. But that being said, they did still have a big opportunity late in this game that the Quakes frantically was able to clear that one away. But yeah, in the end, in this game, in a game where there was no defense play whatsoever, and also both teams tried to their best to implode and lose this game, the Quakes were able to walk out with all 3 points. As the shots in this one, 18 shots for the 15 that the Quakes had, 9 shots on goal for the 6 that the Quakes had, 4 shots off target for the 7 that the Quakes had, 5 shots that was blocked for the 2 that the Quakes had, and possession-wise, 61% possession compared to 39% possession that the Quakes has in this game. And I guess maybe the only good news for RSL coming out of this game is that at least they did show some fight back, that they might take that into the next game, and the fact that they still do have that game in hand, and that they're still above, or well, they're actually tied with Minnesota right now, and with both of these teams, of course, playing the same game. And even if Minnesota does win tomorrow against Sporting KC, RSL still have a chance to maybe take that 7th position and get themselves back above the red line with the game in hand. But the problem with that game in hand is against the Portland Timbers at home. And while the Timbers hasn't really been that good lately, I'm pretty sure the Timbers are also looking to try to get a win so that they can secure home field advantage in this one. And let's not to mention the final game of the season for RSL, and on decision day, they have to go on the road against Sporting KC away, and their only hope is that Sporting KC will actually wrap up the top spot in the Western Conference, because if Sporting KC does not wrap up for that top spot in the Western Conference, boy oh boy, that is going to be a really tough game on the road on decision day to try to clinch playoff position. But moving on, in terms of the next match, so one team that definitely had a huge boost of clinching the playoffs soon is the New York Red Bulls. So this, as I mentioned, was a playoff 6-pointer between both of these teams, and in the end, it was the Red Bulls getting that 1-0 win against Montreal, and also because of this other result between DC and Columbus gone in their way, the Red Bulls are actually now back above the red line with that game in hand too. Now, early on, Brisa did deny Carmona in the second minute. Surprised that Pantemis was not in goal in this one, and they decided to put Brisa in net for this one. I mean, I know Breeza did play in that Canadian Championship game against Forge, but I thought that, he played in that game because, Montreal was basically resting a ton of guys for this game, and that I thought Pentimus was going to come back in this one, which that was not the case. But just 3 minutes later, Piet then puts it wide from long range, and I thought it was a very even start to this game, which, for a game where both teams are really going for it to get all 3 points so that they can get themselves above the red line again, it was very unsurprising to see that was the case. But then in the 7th minute, Cornell had to deny Ibrahim as he went through on goal before Mihajlovic heads it wide from 12 yards out in the 15th minute, and Montreal started to kind of dominate the game a little bit and push for the opener, though that wouldn't last long because in the 28th minute, Breeza denied Kamala. Excuse me there. Breeza denied Klaimala from 15 yards out in the 28th minute as looks like the Red Bulls were trying to take the control back in this game, but instead the chances kind of started to fizzle out in this game as both teams kind of just struggle in the final third in this one, and we head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. Now in the second half, there was a shout for a penalty for the Red Bulls as they feel like there was a handball in the box, and this actually came right after when there was just a scramble in the Montreal box, but nothing was given there. Then Breeza was able to deny Gutmann from close range in the 52nd minute, and I thought the Red Bulls, they not only started the second half the better side, but it seems like they're now the one that is looking to try to get the opening goal. Klaimala had a chance to do so in the 66th minute. In fact, he tried an ambitious 40-yard chip over Breeza, and he definitely saw Breeza coming off his line, so he decided that, let's try one from 40 yards out, and even though that of course missed wide, if you would have put that one on target, then yeah, that would have been in the back of the net. But in the 68th minute, the post denied Castors Jr. and the Red Bulls the opener, and that's when I had to write down that the Red Bulls was clearly pressing for this opener as they were definitely looking to get the opening goal of this game. Clark then fired one high from 22 yards out in the 85th minute, and as time winds down, it looks like it was going to end in a stalemate draw, but then in the first minute of stoppage time, Fabio scores from Clark and Klaimala to give the Red Bulls a 1-0 win, and if the Red Bulls does make it to the playoffs to extend their playoff streak of 12 consecutive years making the playoffs, they will definitely remember that goal as the biggest goal of the season, because that gives them all 3 points in this game to get them back above the red line with a game in hand over teams below them and also above them. And yeah, the shots in this one, 16 shots compared to 7 that Montreal has, 5 shots on goal compared to 1 that Montreal has, 7 shots off target compared to 5 that Montreal has, 4 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that Montreal has. And possession-wise, Montreal actually had the better of the possession, 64% possession compared to 36% possession. But with this loss, this is a huge blow in terms of their chances of making the playoffs. And I hate to say it, but it seems like it's good old Montreal again in terms of the way that, we've seen this before, where just as you thought that maybe they're in a good position to make the playoffs, yeah, they just kind of implode right near the end, and we started to see their implosion. And I thought it wasn't going to happen this year because I thought what Wilfried Nancy has done to this team, it seems like it should be good enough for them to make it to the playoffs, and yeah, these last couple of games have not gone well for them. And I think it's also safe to say that it has not gone well for them because they are missing some key guys in their team. I mean, probably their most lethal goal scorer in this team, Romel Kyoto, hasn't been with Montreal because of injury. And I actually didn't mention that when I talk about when I do a review for Montreal game, but I thought that was a huge blow to them, especially on the attack, and we're definitely seeing it now with this team have really started to struggle to score a goal in the last couple of games, and it's probably the worst time for them to start to struggle to score goals and struggle to get result in the latter part of this season. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is going to be Atlanta and Toronto FC, and for Atlanta, well, it's another game where they blew a late lead, and if they do not make it to the playoffs at the end of the season, they're going to not only look back at this game that they blew a late lead, but they also would look back at that game between them and NYCFC where they blew a late lead and had to settle for a point, because in some way this was kind of almost identical in terms of the game between them and NYCFC. As early on in the first half, they were definitely dominating, and they had a chance just 2 minutes in when Joseph Martinez go through on goal, but he hits one straight to Quentin Westberg. I wrote Atlanta, of course, was on the front foot early, and they were rewarded with a goal by doing that, as Araujo, the one that was able to get the opening goal for Atlanta. But in many ways, this was an absolute gift that Quentin Westberg basically did. Like, he basically was trying to be a little bit too cute, trying to dribble around, and he basically got his pocket picked by Araujo, but basically just slots it into the back of net. So I guess if you're JT Marcinkowski, after that blunder that he had that resulted in an incredible goal that Darnell Spria has scored, and I know a lot of people have said that is probably one of the biggest blunder of this season. Well, at least now he might have a sigh of relief knowing the fact that that might not be the blunder of the season or even the blunder of the week, because this was probably the biggest blunder we have seen this week, and probably one of the biggest blunder or by a goalkeeper this season, because Quinn Westberg, he just being too cute there. I mean, this is why when you're a goalkeeper, when you decide to be too cute, it can sometimes come back to haunt you, and this definitely kind of come back to haunt Quentin Westberg there. Though I will say this, Quentin Westberg, besides that embarrassing moment, I thought he had a good game in this one, and he kind of did his best to try to keep Toronto in this game as long as possible. But just 2 minutes later, Guzan did deny De Leon from long range as TFC was looking to try to equalize, before Westberg kind of redeemed himself a little bit by denying Martinez again from close range, as Atlanta was definitely pushing for a second goal. Then Marcelo Moreno puts it just wide in the near post in the 32nd minute, before Josie Outdoor looking to try to replicate that free kick goal that he scored against Montreal late in the game, but this time to no luck, because he hits one to Guzan on the free kick, and we head to halftime with Atlanta leading 1-0. Now in the second half, once again, Atlanta controlled early and looked to try to get the second goal. Joseph Martinez, he would definitely want this one back, as he just missed an absolute sitter from 10 yards out, and missing sitters and Joseph Martinez doesn't usually go hand in hand, and it doesn't usually happen a lot. But then in the 54th minute, they thought they got the second goal, Atlanta, as Ezekiel Barco scored the goal, and he actually kind of took off his shirt as he thought that he scored the second goal for Atlanta United, but unfortunately the goal was disallowed for offside. So it's got to be a double whammy for Ezekiel Barco, because not only the fact that, the goal that he scored would not count, but because you took off your shirt, that is an automatic yellow card, and I think that's like the first time we've ever seen a player took off his shirt and gets a yellow card and also not able to have his goal count because it was disallowed for offside. Now, I also kind of wrote that there was a lot of gaps at the back for TFC, as their defense was pretty much non-existent at least for the majority part of this game. But then I also kind of wrote, as the game goes on, will Atlanta, those missed chances that they had would come back to haunt them, because we've seen this before with Atlanta. They dominate a game, they have some chances, a lot of chances, but they don't bury those away, and it comes back to haunt them big time. But at least in the 74th minute, Risotto was trying to make sure that was not the case, but unfortunately he puts it over from long range. Then there was a huge shout for a penalty, as the Atlanta crowd thought that Martinez was brought down in the box. I didn't think that was the case. I think Martinez went down on the ground a little bit too easily. But then Moreno in the 78th minute drops it wide from long range, before Bello just puts it wide from the near post. And there was just you can tell there was not only a sense of frustration from this Atlanta player, but that crowd at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, they were kind of getting frustrated and getting restless. The fact that they can't see their team getting that second goal to kill this game off and getting all 3 points, and there was also some nervous energy inside the stadium too, because they seen this story before, and it's not going to end pretty for them. And it turns out that was the case, because after when Barco pulls it high from 20 yards out in the 86th minute, Toronto equalized. And it's Perez scoring his first ever goal for Toronto, and his first career MLS goal from Dwyer and Nelson to tie the game up at 1 apiece, and that would be the final score of this game. As the shots in this one, 19 shots compared to 11 that TFC had, 4 shots on goal compared to 8 that Toronto has, 7 shots off target compared to 2 that Toronto has, 8 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that TFC had, and possession-wise, 59% possession compared to 41% possession that TFC has in this game. And I guess maybe the only good news I would say for Atlanta coming out of this game is that at least they technically gained ground in terms of them and teams that it is below the red line, because as I mentioned, again with this game that I'll talk about next, they actually do gain like 1 point in this, and they're actually still in a good position to clinch playoff. But when you look at how this result goes, and you just look at these other resort where they drop points late in the game, oh, they're definitely going to be thinking about that, and how if they would actually pick up points, like if they pick up 3 points in this game, they probably would have just cement themselves of making the playoffs, and don't really need to worry about the last 2 games to, of course, continue to pick up resort to get themselves clinched for playoff position. So yeah, they're gonna have to try to brush this one off and go again in the next one. But for TFC, they did it again, playing spoiler against a playoff team. I mean, they did it against Montreal. They did again in this one, and this one I think it was even more impressive considering they were pretty much second best pretty much throughout the entire game, and they just kind of kept that belief that they can get an equalizer, and they did it late in this one to really spoil Atlanta. Well, I wouldn't say they spoil Atlanta playoff chance, because like I said, Atlanta technically kind of gained ground in terms of the next game I'll talk about, but it definitely spoiled their chance for Atlanta to just clinch playoff position a little bit early and don't have to kind of worry about these next two games that they have. But now moving on in terms of the next game, and that of course is DC versus Columbus, and Columbus is still alive because in a must-win game they got exactly that by winning 3-1 against DC, and at the same time put a really big damage in terms of DC hope of potentially making the playoffs this season. Though early on it looked like DC was going to be running away with this early, as in the second minute Ariola would score from Felipe to give DC a 1-0 lead, and probably the nightmare, the worst case scenario for Columbus, knowing the fact that when you're in a must-win game and you concede an early goal, it has to be very demoralized. But despite the fact that there wasn't really much that happened, as the shots were like 2-1 in favor of DC 21 minutes in, Columbus started to kind of fight back a little bit, because in the 21st minute, Hamid did deny Santos from 14 yards out before he would deny Barry in the far post in the 33rd minute, and there was definitely started to try to press for the equalizer, and they had definitely a low chances to do so for the rest of the first half. Etienne hits the side net team from close range in the 35th minute before he would miss once again from close range, this time puts one into the stands. But then in the 44th minute, Columbus had a big opportunity to finally get the equalizer and make the pressure that they put on DC paid off, as a penalty was given to them after Alfaro brought down Zairian in the box, which Columbus was able to take advantage of the penalty, as Zairian, the one that won the penalty, he would score here to tie the game up at 1 apiece. By the way, Lucas Zairian, another monster game for him, and it's no surprise that when Zairian is clicking when Zairian is clicking, this Columbus team can most likely will get 3 points. But we do head to halftime tied at 1 apiece, but you can just sense that Columbus, with that late goal, they definitely had the momentum in the second half, and it was the case, as just 1 minute into the second half, Hamid had to make a save to keep this one 1-1 as he denied Frazier on the header. Then Santos struck the post from long range in the 49th minute. Like, if that went in, that would have definitely been in contention for goal of the week. But there was no doubt that Columbus once again was pressing for a goal, this time for the go-ahead goal. Etienne did put one over the bar from long range, but then on the other end, in the 52nd minute, DC almost scored against the run of play, and Ola Kamara, he would definitely want to have this one back, because he basically went through on goal, and we've seen so many times how Ola Kamara, when he went through on goal, especially this season, always makes no mistake and puts this one into the back of net. But inexplicably, he missed the target in this one, and that would later haunt DC in this game, because after Hamid was able to deny Barry from 12 yards out in the 55th minute, in the 66th minute, Columbus got the lead. And it's Pedro Santos scored from NYRB to make it 2-1 in favor of Columbus. What a pass that was from NYRB there to find Santos. And basically Santos was off to the races as he went through on goal. And this time he makes no mistake to give Columbus a 2-1 lead in this one. Then Room did deny Abula from close range in the 73rd minute as DC was looking to try to tie the game again. But then 3 minutes later, Columbus make sure that in a must-win game and that they need 3 points, they will get 3 points, as Zaire, who I said he had a monster game in this one, he would score here from Barry to make it 3-1 in favor of Columbus. And this is definitely the second game in a row that Zaire might have got the goal of the week. Well, last week, I don't think Zaire actually got the goal of the week. I think it was Darren Espria basically gets the goal of the week, and you probably know why he got the goal of the week from last week. But this one, I think he definitely have a good shout for getting a goal of the week, because he hit an absolute screamer from outside the box to put it into the top right. And yeah, Columbus were up 3-1 in this game, and you just sense that there was just no coming back for DC, because despite the fact that Reyna did try to make it interesting, but he missed wide from long range in the 77th minute. For the rest of the game, it just kind of felt like DC was just so demoralized that they gave up 3 straight goals. And in the end, they lose 3-1 in this game against the Columbus Crew, as the shots in this one, 18 shots compared to 9 that DC had, 9 shots on goal compared to 3 that DC had, 7 shots off target compared to 3 that DC had, 2 shots on his block compared to 3 that DC had, and possession-wise, 57% possession compared to 43% possession that DC had in this game. And like I said, with this win, Columbus is still alive, and they're actually tied on points with DC United. And even though DC does have the tiebreaker, DC is now dropped back down to 8th place, and they're actually a point behind the Red Bulls. But they also know that the Red Bulls have a game in hand over them, so they definitely will need a lot of help if they want to be in the playoff race on the final day. And in some way, they have to hope that the Red Bulls or Atlanta does lose their midweek game so that they have a chance. But that also goes the same with the Columbus Crew, where despite the fact that it's great that they got this win, they're not really in a good position in the playoffs, and they equally need as much help that DC needs heading into the final day if they have a shot of making the playoffs. But now moving on into the last game on this board, and that of course is the Texas. Well, actually, it's not the Texas Derby, but it's the final Copa Tejas matchup of the season, and this one is between FC Dallas versus Austin FC. And I know in the preview I talked about how this is pretty much for all the marbles, because both of these teams, if they can win this game, they of course will claim the first ever Copa Tejas trophy. And in the end, it's FC Dallas that gets the honor of claiming the first ever Copa Tejas trophy in this rivalry history. But in the first half, I kind of noticed that there was definitely a lot of voting in the crowd. In fact, I can even hear the Austin supporter throughout the game when they were chanting, and that has to really take Dallas off. And especially, I don't know if these players they would care or not, but when you get outsung by the opposition supporter, and it's pretty obvious that is the case, yeah, that is a little bit embarrassing. And Dallas, this is a team, especially with the crowd, there tends to be a little bit more quiet, and their supporters isn't really as loud as it is. But it's got to be a little bit embarrassing, the fact that throughout the TV, I can clearly hear the Austin FC supporters chanting, and I was thinking, well, am I actually watching a game where Dallas is playing at home? Because it looked like it's a home game for Austin. It felt like this game is still playing at Q2 Stadium. But despite that, that I think is kind of the only morale that Austin didn't win in this game, because at the end of the day, they still lost this one. But that being said, in terms of this game itself, it was actually a really slow start to this game. There wasn't really anything that happened in the first 30 minutes. The first real chance came in the 31st minute when Rain puts it wide from long range, before on the other end, Fiera missed wide from close range in the 34th minute. But then in the 36th minute, we got ourselves our first goal in this Copa Tijas final as Fagundes scored from rain to give Austin a 1-0 lead, but that lead unfortunately would not last long because just 2 minutes later, Dallas would tie the game up with Ferreira scoring from Obrian and Tomasi to tie the game up at 1 apiece, and that would be the scoreline as we head into the second half. But as we go into the second half, Austin looking to trying to retake the lead as they were on the front foot early. Lima tried to curl one in, but it goes straight to Jimmy Maurer in the 50th minute. But then in the 58th minute, Austin's chance to potentially retake the lead definitely took a huge hit because Hector Jimenez basically commit a denial of goal score opportunity. Actually, I don't know why I wrote own goal there. He actually didn't score an own goal, but he basically commit a denial of goal score opportunity foul there. So that means it's an automatic red for him, and Austin was down to 10 men. But despite that, I didn't think Dallas really took advantage of that man up for most part of this game. I mean, they did try to do so immediately when Ferreira just puts it high from the free kick in the 60th minute, but after that, they didn't really create a lot of quality chances, and in some way, Austin actually had almost the equal amount of chances as Dallas created, despite the fact that Austin was down to 10 men. Because in the second minute, Jerussi just missed high from close range. Like, he definitely would love to have that one back with the way that he was just like 5 yards out, and he just missed that one high off the target. Before on the other end, Obrian puts it wide from close range in the 78th minute. But then in the 80th minute, Dallas was able to get the lead for the first time. And it's actually Franco Jara, the one that scores the goal to make it 2-1 in favor of Dallas. And, what's surprising about that goal, besides the fact that, Jara doesn't usually score a lot of goals, but he must also become the fastest player to score a goal coming off the bench, because he literally just came off the bench 30 seconds before this goal, and literally on his first touch, he put the ball into the back of the net. So yeah, that of course made it 2-1 in this game. Pepe did try to finish it for Dallas, but he missed high from close range. They mentioned in the Dallas broadcast that Pepe actually hasn't been playing lately, and I don't know if it actually is an injury that has been bothering him, or the fact that he's just kind of playing his days, or counting down his days with Dallas this season, because we know most likely he is going to be moving to Europe this off season. But in the 90th minute, Obrian did also try to finish it, but unfortunately he puts that one over the board, and despite the fact that Dallas wasn't able to get that third goal to kill this game off, they were still able to win 2-1, as Austin really didn't provide any pressure to try to maybe make this game interesting. And yeah, in the end, Dallas was able to win 2-1 in this one, as the shots in this one, 10 shots apiece for both of these teams, 3 shots on goal apiece for both of these teams, 4 shots off target for the 3 that Austin has, 4 shots that was blocked for the 3 that Dallas had, and possession-wise, 51% possession compared to 49% possession that Austin FC has in this game. And again, congratulations to FC Dallas winning the first ever edition of the Copa Tijas. But for Austin, it's got to be a little bit frustrating, the fact that this was really the big thing that will kind of sums up a kind of a disappointing expansion season, but unfortunately they weren't able to do so, and that red card kind of really harmed their chances, because again, there's not a lot of time when you're down to 10 men and you're able to still win a game, unless if you're facing against Minnesota. Like, if you're facing against Minnesota and you're down to 10 men, then you're always going to have a chance to win a game. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below what do you think of these games. And like I said before, well, I don't know if I said this before, but I still have to do the preview for tomorrow game, because the first game for tomorrow is going to be starting at 1 p.m. Eastern, but 10 a.m. my time Pacific. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.